thought a stranger's kindness saved me that frozen night on I-75. 3 days later, I realized he'd been mapping out exactly how to find me. I'm not the type to share stuff like this online, but what happened to me last February still messes with my head, and maybe writing it down will help. Or maybe someone else has dealt with something similar. I don't know. I was driving back to Columbus from visiting my sister in Detroit. It was late, around 11:12 p.m. when my Camry just died on I-75. No warning, just sputtered and stopped. The dashboard showed -8 degrees Celsius, and honestly, the heater had been struggling the whole drive. Frost was already creeping back onto the windshield within minutes. I called roadside assistance first thing. They said a tow truck would be about 2 hours. 2 hours in that cold. I had half a tank of gas left, so I kept the car running in short bursts to stay warm, but I was worried about carbon monoxide or whatever. My phone was at 34% battery. I'd forgotten my charger at my sister's place because I'm an idiot sometimes. Cars kept passing by, spraying sleet everywhere. Nobody stopped for maybe 40 minutes. Then this blue Ford F-150 pulled over in front of me, hazards blinking, dented bumper, Ohio plates. A guy got out, maybe mid-40s, wearing a brown Carhartt jacket and a Toledo Mud Hens baseball cap. He knocked on my window, and I cracked it open just a bit. "You all right?" he asked. His voice came through staticky on a CB radio he had clipped to his belt. "Saw you sitting here." I explained about the breakdown and the tow coming. He nodded, looked at my car, then went back to his truck. Came back with a thermos and this cheap styrofoam cup. "Here, coffee. It's just instant, but it's hot," he said. Then he pulled a Red Bull from his jacket pocket. "And this, for safety. Sugar and caffeine. Keep you alert in case you get drowsy from the cold." I thanked him. The coffee tasted terrible, but it was warm. He seemed nice enough, you know? Just a guy helping out. He stayed there with me, standing outside in the cold, making small talk. Asked where I was headed. I said Columbus. He asked what part. I told him near Clintonville. He nodded like he knew the area. "You live alone?" he asked. At the time, it seemed like a normal question. Like, is someone worried about you? Do you have people checking on you? I said, yeah, just me and my cat. Her name's Biscuit, and she always knocks over my water glass in the morning. Random detail, but I remember telling him that. He asked about my job, my route, how often I made this drive. Everything felt conversational. He told me he did freight hauling, mostly overnight runs between Michigan and Kentucky. After about 30 minutes, I checked my phone. Still no update from the tow company. Signal was weak out there. He saw me looking frustrated. "Tell you what," he said. "There's a plowed side road about a mile up. Used to be a rest area, still has some lighting. You could wait there, get out of the wind. I'll lead you there. You can warm up by my truck while we wait." I hesitated, but it was so damn cold, and he'd been nothing but helpful. So I said, okay. My car started up fine suddenly, which was weird. Just turned right over. I followed his F-150 off the interstate onto this side road. It was plowed, like he said, but there were no other cars, no rest area that I could see, just a clearing with some old concrete barriers. He parked, and I pulled up next to him. He got out and walked over, shining his phone light on my car. "Let me just get your plate number," he said. "I'll text it to the tow company. Make sure they find you out here." He took a photo of my license plate. I saw his phone screen for a second. It showed the timestamp and GPS coordinates. He was very precise about getting the shot right. Then he asked if I wanted to sit in his truck since it was warmer. His truck smelled like diesel fuel and peppermint gum. There was a lot of stuff in there. Maps, notebooks, a laptop bag. We sat there for maybe 10 minutes. He asked more questions. Exact address in Columbus? Did I have family nearby? What time did I usually get home from these trips? Something started feeling off. Not like scary movie off, just, I don't know. Too many questions. Too specific. My phone buzzed. Text from the tow company. Driver arriving at your location on I-75 in 15 minutes. I told him I should probably head back to the highway so they could find me easily. He got quiet for a second, then said, "Sure." That made sense. I drove back to where I'd broken down. He followed me, which I thought was nice, making sure I got there safe. He waved and drove off. The tow truck showed up eventually. Guy said my alternator was probably dying, but couldn't say why it started again. Towed me to a shop in Toledo that was closed until morning. I got a motel room, dealt with everything the next day. Here's where it gets fucked up. When I got to the shop the next morning, my car was gone. Just gone. The owner said nobody had touched it, no tow truck came. Security cameras showed nothing after 6 a.m. Police filed a report, but basically shrugged. 3 days later, I got a call. My Camry was found in a Walmart parking lot in Newark, completely cleaned of snow. Inside was a receipt from that Walmart, dated the exact night my car vanished. Someone had bought zip ties, duct tape, and a tarp. I drove with a friend to pick it up. Everything seemed normal inside except my registration was in a different spot than where I keep it. That night, my neighbor Darla came over. She's this older lady who watches everyone's business. She asked if I knew someone in a brown Carhartt jacket. "Guy matching that walked past your house last night," she said. "Stood across the street for a bit. Took pictures of your windows with his phone. I almost called the cops, but he left." I felt sick. I started thinking about everything. The thermos, the exact questions about where I lived, who I lived with, the photo of my license plate. He had my full name and address from that. The GPS coordinates. Every single helpful thing had been information. He knew my route, my schedule, where I lived alone. I got new locks, filed another police report. They're investigating, but it's been months. Sometimes I think about that Red Bull he gave me. I never drank it. It's still in my car. I'm too scared to throw it away, too scared to open it. And I keep wondering, what was supposed to happen that night? What did I accidentally avoid by going back to the highway when I did? I don't drive to Detroit anymore. I thought working nights at a gas station would be boring. Turns out some customers leave behind more than just receipts. They leave questions you can't answer. I'm not the type to believe in weird stuff. Ghosts, conspiracies, any of that. But what happened during my shift at the 7-Eleven outside Bakersfield still keeps me up sometimes. It was January, maybe 3 years back. I'd been working graveyard shifts for about 6 months because the pay was better, and honestly, I needed the money. Most nights were dead quiet. Just me, the hum of the freezers, and that one fluorescent light above the register that never stopped buzzing. Outside, the parking lot was covered in half-melted slush from the snow earlier that week. That night started normal. A few truckers came through around midnight. One guy bought beef jerky and asked where the restroom was. Another got coffee and complained it tasted like dirt. Regular stuff. Then, at 1:18 a.m., I remember the exact time because I was watching the clock, waiting for my break. This guy walked in wearing a dark blue parka, the kind with a fur-lined hood. He looked maybe 40, had a scruffy beard, and his hair was wet like he'd been standing in the rain. Except it wasn't raining, just cold and gross outside. He didn't say anything at first, just walked straight to the coolers in back, grabbed a Coke Zero, then came to the counter and picked up a pack of Marlboro Reds from the display. His hands were shaking pretty bad when he put the stuff down. I figured maybe he was cold or coming off something. I've seen plenty of people like that working nights. 6:47, I said. He pulled out exact change from his coat pocket. Coins and bills, counted perfectly. That stuck with me because who carries exact change anymore? He kept glancing at the door while I bagged his stuff. Right before he left, he looked at me and said, "Don't let anyone follow you home tonight." I laughed it off. "Yeah, all right, man. Drive safe." He didn't smile, just stared for a second, then walked out into the parking lot. I watched him through the windows as he headed toward the far end, where the cameras didn't cover well. Then I went back to scrolling on my phone. About 30 minutes later, I heard sirens, lots of them. An ambulance and 2 police cars flew past the lot, lights flashing. I stepped outside to look and saw more emergency vehicles heading toward the freeway. Later, I found out there was a massive pileup near the on-ramp. 4 cars involved. They closed the whole northbound side for hours. I didn't think much about the parka guy until the next morning when I got home and turned on the local news while making breakfast. They were running a missing person segment, and I nearly dropped my coffee. The photo on the screen showed the same guy. Same beard, same wet hair, same dark blue parka. The report said his name was Vance Holloway, last seen leaving a diner in Fresno the night before. Fresno is like 2 hours south of Bakersfield. I called the police tip line right away, told them he'd been in my store at 1:18 a.m., bought cigarettes and a Coke. They took my information and said someone would come by to check the security footage. 2 days later, an officer showed up during my shift. He was older, looked tired, and carried a manila folder. He asked me to pull up the footage from that night, so I brought him to the tiny back office where the DVR system was. We watched the recording together. There he was, clear as anything. Walking in, grabbing the Coke, coming to the register. His face was visible. You could see him counting the coins, handing them over. Then he walked to the door, stopped, and just stood there for a few seconds, staring out into the dark lot. Then he left. The camera angle cut off right at the edge of the door, so you couldn't see where he went after that. The officer made notes, copied the footage onto a USB drive, and thanked me. Before he left, though, he pulled out a photo from the folder. "We found his parka yesterday," he said, "in a ravine off Highway 58, about 10 miles from here." I looked at the picture. It was the same coat, no question, but the zipper was cut clean down the middle, and the pockets were turned inside out. Empty. Was he? I started to ask. "We haven't found him yet," the officer said, "but his phone records are strange. His phone pinged a tower near your store around 1:15 a.m. Then it pinged again in Kern County at 2:30 a.m. That's over 90 miles away." I didn't know what to say to that. "There's no way he could have driven that far in an hour," the officer continued. "Not with the freeway closed. Not unless he flew." After he left, I kept replaying the whole thing in my head. The shaking hands, the exact change. The way Vance had said, "Don't let anyone follow you," like he knew something bad was coming. Every shift after that felt different. Every time someone walked in wearing a jacket, I'd tense up. Every time I heard someone buy a Coke, I'd look twice. I started noticing things I hadn't before. How many people came in alone at night? How many of them looked scared or lost? I quit that job 4 months later. Told my manager I was moving, but really I just couldn't do it anymore. They never found Vance Holloway. I check the news sometimes, hoping for an update. Nothing. But I still think about what he said, and I still wonder what the hell he was running from that night. I never thought a simple Lyft ride home from work could turn into the scariest night of my life. But that snowy evening in Missoula, Montana, changed everything. I still check my locks twice before bed. My name's Jackson Hargrave. I'm just a regular guy, work at a warehouse stocking shelves, nothing fancy. This happened back in January last year, right after a big storm hit. I live out near Wallace, Idaho, but I commute to Missoula for the job. Pays better, you know? That night, I finished my shift late, around 10 p.m. The streets were all slick with ice, snow piling up fast. My truck was in the shop, brakes acting up, so I pulled out my phone and requested a Lyft. Pick up from downtown Missoula, drop off at the highway exit just past Lookout Pass on I-90. Figured it'd be a quiet ride, maybe 45 minutes if the roads weren't too bad. The app said the driver was close. His name popped up as Zoltar Klein. Kinda weird name, but whatever. Car was a beat-up Honda Civic, gray with a dent on the passenger door. I hopped in the back, shook off the snow from my boots. There was this fuzzy pine tree air freshener hanging from the mirror, swinging a bit. Smelled okay at first, but mixed with the old coffee cups on the floor, it got kinda gross. Zoltar didn't say much, just nodded, started driving. His radio was on some staticky station, music cutting in and out, like a song would play for a minute, then fuzz, then back. Annoying, but I didn't complain. Snow started coming down heavier as we left the city lights behind. We hit the interstate, heading west toward the pass. Zoltar kept glancing at his phone, mounted on the dash. I saw him scrolling through what looked like a list, passenger names or something. He muttered under his breath, "Long route tonight, gotta take a detour." I asked what he meant, but he just shrugged. "Roads are bad up ahead." "Okay, fine." I leaned back, tried to relax. My phone was low on battery. Forgot to charge it at work, stupid me, so I didn't mess with it much. About halfway up Lookout Pass, I noticed headlights behind us. Close, too close. The car started flashing its beams, high, low, like signaling or something. Zoltar sped up. Not crazy fast, but enough that the Civic fishtailed on the ice. "What's that about?" I asked. He didn't answer right away. Then, probably just some idiot. But he took this sharp turn off the highway onto a narrow lane. It was plowed, like for farm access. Trees on both sides, dark as hell. No streetlights out there. We bumped along for a minute, then stopped at a rusty farm gate, engine idling. Zoltar turned halfway in his seat. "Hey man, someone called dispatch earlier. Asked where I dropped a passenger tonight. Said the house number was wrong." His voice was flat, like reading off a script. I frowned. What does that have to do with me? He pulled out his phone, showed me a photo. A porch, light off, snow on the steps. Looked exactly like my Aunt Elowyn's place in Coeur d'Alene. Same old wooden railing, even the mailbox shape. Dropped someone there earlier. Felt weird about it. I stared. "That's my aunt's house, in another county." He nodded slow. "Coincidence, huh?" I got this uneasy feeling, like maybe I should have gotten out right then. But it was freezing, middle of nowhere. "Just drop me at the exit," I said. He drove on, but quieter now. Finally, we reached the exit near Wallace. I paid through the app, got out, started walking the last mile home. My place is off a side road, no big deal usually. Snow crunching under my feet. When I got inside, kicked off my boots, noticed I'd left the living room lamp on all day. Waste of electricity, but whatever. Checked my phone, plugged it in finally, and there was a voicemail. Time-stamped during the ride, like 10:30 p.m., I hit play. No voice at first, just breathing, heavy. Then footsteps, like walking on gravel or snow. Sounded exactly like that farm lane we took. It cut off after 20 seconds. Freaked me out bad. Who left that? I called Lyft support right away. Told them the whole thing. They pulled Zoltar's logs. Said there was a deleted trip around the same time, but pickup address was different. Somewhere in Spokane, Washington, not Missoula. Next day, his profile was gone from the app. I looked up the license plate, matched a Civic from a repossession company in Idaho Falls. Called them. Guy on the phone said Zoltar worked off the books sometimes, repoing cars. "Shady dude," he added. "Quit last week." I couldn't shake it. Was the wrong house a mistake? Or was he practicing? Learning routes, checking porches. Figuring out lights off means no one's home, maybe. I remember how my old dog, Buster, used to bark at nothing in the yard at night. Turned out it was just deer sometimes. But now, every creak in the house makes me jump. That voicemail? Deleted it, but I still hear the breathing in my head. Police said nothing criminal, just weird. Sleep's been shit ever since. What if he comes back?